the Egyptian king who had 100 children. It's hard to say exactly how many kids Ramses II had. The great pharaoh kept making new ones. In total, he may have had 80 sons and 60 daughters, but few of them lived long enough to be considered heirs. Ramses II's reign was the longest in Egypt. He ruled for 66 years and died at 90. Ramses II was the third pharaoh of the 19th dynasty, but he was not the heir apparent when he was born. His older brother was set to inherit the throne, but then the brother died, aged 14, so Ramses became the prince regent. This was the 13th century BC, so things were different. Ramses immediately married and started having kids. He had at least 4 by the time he turned 15. He also commanded an army detachment. Egyptian records of the time call him a cunning young leader. At that time, Ramses was already married. At 25, he became pharaoh. Initially, he focused on building cities, temples, and monuments. Ramses II built a new capital, Ramses, in the Nile Delta. He used it as the main staging point for his campaigns in Syria. The young pharaoh led several military expeditions into the Levant. Under his rule, Egypt established control over Canaan and Phoenicia. Ramses also led several expeditions into Nubia, but his most famous was the Battle of Kadesh. The Egyptians fought against the Hittite Empire on the Orontes River. This was the largest chariot battle ever fought. 6,000 chariots were used. Both sides' chariotry charged and counterattacked for days. The outcome of the battle is still debated. Egypt claimed victory because the Hittites retreated, but Kadesh remained unconquered. In fact, the conflict ended in a peace treaty. It's the first recorded peace treaty in history. Ramses II was also fascinated with architecture. He commissioned 2 gigantic temples, Ramesseum and Abu Simbel. Towering statues of Ramses II were erected all over Egypt. His personal life was larger than life too. Ramses II had over 200 wives and concubines. He married 2 queens when he was just a prince. His first and most beloved wife was Queen Nefertari. She became his co-ruler, titled Royal Wife of the Pharaoh. It was Nefertari who negotiated the peace treaty after Kadesh. Ramses clearly valued her more than his other wives. We know next to nothing about them, except some names. But Nefertari was immortalized in the great temple of Abu Simbel. She was dead by then, so Ramses had her depicted on the facade next to Tuya, his mother. In this temple, Nefertari is transformed into Sopdet, the star Sirius. Sopdet's appearance presaged the Nile's annual flooding. Another temple carved into rock was dedicated to Nefertari herself. There she is identified with the goddess Hathor. Carved into its facade is a tribute. Nefertari, she for whom the sun shines. Of all Ramses II's sons, Kamwiset was his favorite. He became Grand Master of the artisans of Ptah. Kamwiset restored a number of pyramids in his father's name. His work is still evident on the Pyramid of Unas. His daughters eventually became his wives. This was customary for Egyptian dynasties. They were thenceforth referred to as great royal wives. Bint-Anath was Ramses II's favorite daughter. She was given several titles apart from great royal wife. Bint-Anath was the Lady of the 2 lands. She was sovereign of Upper and Lower Egypt. She and her sister Nebatawi both appear on the facade of Abu Simbel. We still know their names some 15,000 years later. What a family!